morning, everybody, and welcome to this month's edition of Carpe Datum Prescriptions. My name is Shirish Netke. I'm the CEO of Ambaroon Inc., and I have with me today M.R. Rangaswamy, co-founder and CEO of the Sandhill Group. M.R., welcome to our program.
Thanks, Shirish.
And M.R., before we get down to talking about the report, which we're going to talk about today, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about the Sandhill Group. Everybody has heard about it in a few different contexts, but could you tell us a little bit more about what the Sandhill Group does?
Yeah, I mean, our original claim to fame is that we own Sandhill.com, which is considered to be the most expensive real estate in Silicon Valley.
Okay, yes.
But humor aside, what we do three different things. First, we are angel investors. So we get a look at the early technologies in enterprise software. So we get to talk to entrepreneurs, people who want to disrupt existing markets, people who have really cool ideas. And we have funded over the past 17 years about 40 such companies. So we really have a good pulse for the innovation coming from Silicon Valley. The second thing we do is we also organize a lot of events for the technology industry. So we meet with CIOs, we meet with senior executives at technology companies, we meet with entrepreneurs all the time. So that kind of gives us the feel for people and technology that come out of Silicon Valley. But also on the web, we have Sandhill.com. That's the premier destination for entrepreneurs, CIOs, and technology executives. So we also have a big voice on the web, if you will. So really what it gives us at Sandhill Group is this really 360-degree view on everything happening around the enterprise technology space.
Great. So you guys are the voice and the ears and eyes of Silicon Valley, as they say.
We hope so.
Okay. All right. So let's start with the questions here. Now, you guys recently released a report called Mindset over Data Set. And I know you guys do a report every few years. This is like Arnold Schwarzenegger does a movie every 4 or 5 years. So what was the story? What was the impetus behind this specific report on big data?
Yeah, I would say, Shirish, revisionist history says we only pick blockbusters.
Okay.
We only do one every 2 years.
All right.
But reality is, as you well know, megatrends and such happen once ever so often and not every day. So rather than writing a report detailing every little aspect of every new technology on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, what we felt would be appropriate for consumers of technology in the enterprise is a well thought out, clear, concise report that comes out every couple of years, which focuses on one technology. For example, cloud was a big deal a few years ago. We did a report on that. Mobile technology was another one. Way before this, web services, enterprise security, offshoring, and so forth. So we pick each one and really project out the entire space, if you will, in a meaningful way so that people who adopt these new technologies can make the proper decisions and clearly communicate this to their companies and to their vendors and to their stakeholders. So that's the kind of service we provide. So we do one every couple of years, and of course, the latest one now on everybody's mind is big data.
Of course, yes.
And so that's our thinking behind our approach.
Okay, great. So now let's talk about the report a little bit more in detail. The title of the report is Mindset over Data Set. And that's kind of interesting because you mentioned you talk about technology blockbusters. Every report that's come out in the last few years on big data talks about how technology is going to change the world, how it's going to be the change agent for a lot of different things that are happening in business. And are you saying with your title that the technology is not important? Because everybody else seems to think that technology is the key thing.
Well, again, what 25 leading CXOs at the Fortune 500 companies have told us, and these are the folks we interviewed in depth for the report, is that technology is not the problem.
Okay.
It's really an enabler to come up with the proper solution. And so we approach it from that angle, if you will. So what is the business problem that a company is trying to solve? What is needed to solve that problem? So when you take that approach, technology becomes a mere enabler. And that's kind of what we see about big data is obviously there's tons of technology out there, but if a company's problem is not technology, it really could be or is other issues, like it could be political, cultural, and so on and so forth. Those are really much more important to solve and address than to have a technology platform. So that's kind of our story on this.
Well, that's a very different approach from what people are taking. So it's great that you've got the business perspective on this. And I mean, there are business leaders who are less concerned about the specifics of Hadoop or Cassandra and care more about economic implications like that. So let me ask you a question. How would you explain your perspective on big data to Warren Buffett in 90 seconds? He's known as somebody who doesn't delve in technology, but he's definitely way up there as a business person. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's a great question, Shirish. Again, what I would tell someone like Buffett is that he will recognize that every one of his companies, every one of his investments is gathering lots of information.
Uh-huh.
This information can come from within their company, outside their company, can come from news sources, can come from Wall Street, can come from Main Street, and all this information is being collected, whether his companies know it or not. They're collecting this information. So the question is, can you do something with this information? Can you build business value out of this information?
Uh-huh.
And that is what big data is all about. So it's about taking disparate information that a company has, being able to synthesize it into meaningful information that adds business value to the company.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, he's in the insurance business, so might be able to get something out of that. There's definitely an application on insurance, from what you can see here.
Exactly.
So you said that you've seen a lot of companies succeed by adopting big data in your study. So you've spoken to about 25 of them, and a lot of them have actually are not going to make the transition, and that happens in place of any technology that's adopted new. What are some of the indications of companies that are not going to make it compared to the ones who are going to make it? And again, I know we don't have a crystal ball here, but can you see some signs of companies who will not make who's not going to make it to the other side?
Yeah, the good thing is when we did our interviews, they were in complete confidence. So as a rule, we don't reveal the names of executives and the companies they represent.
Yeah.
This gives them a really candid way to approach our questions and answer the questions.
Yeah.
And so what we've been able to get from our report that many others haven't been able to do is the candid, awareness and results that they're getting and the problems they're facing in a way that is very, very meaningful to a reader.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, like you mentioned earlier, technology is not an issue. We do not mention any technology vendors, or we don't have any magic quadrants or any kind of holy grail in terms of the technology side itself.
Yep.
So what we were able to glean by talking to these companies is different ways to approach the problem.
Okay.
Right? And so what we get from the report, or what the reader will get from the report, is practical ideas of how they can embark on their journey, on the big data journey.
Okay.
Right? And so companies, I think, that succeed are companies that are much more practical and pragmatic.
Right.
They take a problem, they try to solve it, and move on and show success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the ones that are bound to fail take this big approach, big bang approach of investing a lot of money in a lot of technologies, hiring lots of consultants, and implementations that take years.
Right.
If we hear of any such thing, that's doomed for failure from the start.
Yep.
I think the companies that are succeeding are companies that try something really quick, and they also fail fast. So they do something and it doesn't seem to work, they drop the project and move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this failing fast is something that we encourage people to do.
Mm-hmm.
Experimentation is another thing that we see from these leaders is something that can be done.
Yep.
And should be done as a precursor to taking on larger and larger projects.
Right.
So I think those are some of the issues. And the biggest issue, Shirish, coming back to are political and cultural.
Okay.
Do these companies have a mindset to change, to adopt, to try something new?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that means more to success than the projects themselves or the technologies that they use. Yeah?
Yeah, so the tech, go ahead.
So that's what I mean. So I really think the guys who are practical, who try out things, who show success and move on and build out bigger projects, I think is the way to go with big data rather than a desperate act of changing out your entire platform set or things like that. That's one thing. Second thing I think is the questions to be asked internally within a company. Are you organized with big data?
Yep.
I think is a very much more appropriate question that companies have to ask themselves.
Right.
And this is an area I think we have some controversial recommendations in our report.
Mm-hmm.
It's for each company to read our report and make up their own mind.
Right.
But one of the big things that we find some leading companies adopting today is a new position in the company called the CAO, or the Chief Analytics Officer. Maybe you can call it the Chief Data Officer.
Right.
But this is somewhat of a controversial recommendation that we make. And it's for each company, I guess, to read our report and make up their own mind. But we believe that this might be a unique and a new approach to showing success in this space.
So are you saying that the Chief Analytics Officer is kind of a reflection of the mindset of the company? Or does it require a mindset?
Exactly. He is he's the conscience of the company. He
Uh-huh.
knows where the data lies. He knows where the gems are hidden. He knows what some of the other executives in the companies want. He knows all the stakeholders.
Right.
And he or she is someone who's able to navigate the organization, understand the technology, and pull together the proper solutions for the company. I think much like in the past, there have been new titles created in companies. If you recall, Shirish, even the Chief Information Officer was a new title created.
I remember that.
In the company when technology hit us. So
yeah.
All we are saying is we're making the case that maybe there's a new function in a company that needs to be, looked at for the next step of the journey here.
Yeah. So in fact, a few years ago, when the big data buzz started, people were saying big data is the answer. We don't know what the question is, but that's the answer. And you're saying that there's a bit of a fallacy in that approach, right?
Exactly. And I think this might be a next step for many companies to adopt.
Okay. So what would be your advice to the leadership of a company that is what you think is not doing it right? What would you tell the CEO of a company, and you talk to a lot of them, about if you see the signs of people doing technology for its own sake, what would you tell a CEO like that?
Yeah, the CEO conversation would be very much, Shirish, like the piece you and I wrote at Sandhill.com.
Yeah.
Which really is talking to the CEO and the C-level executives in their own language. So you would talk to CEOs in terms of stock price, earnings, customer growth, revenue growth, and I would lay out the benefits of big data in those terms as opposed to any kind of technology term.
Yep.
And so really trying to pin the CEO into what his or her objectives are for the company, and then being able to relate their big data projects to meeting those goals. And if big data projects are not meeting those goals, then what the heck are they there for? So
exactly.
Again, being able to line the big data projects with the CEO and management's objectives, there definitely has to be alignment. And I think if you see that misalignment, that's one of the reasons that we can predict that some of these companies are definitely going to fail.
Right. So let me ask you another question from, you mentioned the CIO earlier. Now, large companies have invested very heavily in infrastructure over the last 20 years. And with the approach that we're talking about, are we talking about ripping and replacing existing software and infrastructure? And how would the CIO react to that, especially when you talk about some of the solutions in the area of big data?
Yeah, big data, again, is more on the analysis side of the business. So this
Right.
is not like ripping and replacing an ERP system.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that, the roadmap for big data that we lay out in our report
Mm-hmm.
really gives you a smooth and a good transition path to accomplishing your goals, right?
Yeah.
So big data would be, solutions would be things that are added on and over time may replace some of the existing analytics solutions and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really a rip and replace kind of an approach. Rather, it's one which is much more thought out and structured, and a smooth transition is part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how I think most leading companies are approaching this is in that manner, as opposed to a much more painful approach.
Yeah.
That may or may not yield results.
So I mean, the interesting part is it's not, if it's part from the analytics side of the house, it makes a difference in the way you approach the problem. It's not about, it's about relying on the existing infrastructure rather than trying to replace it.
Right. It's to supplement and enhance as opposed to replace.
Great. Now, one of the questions we always ask all our interviewees is as a prescription. I mean, if you were to say one thing to a CEO today, what would it be? And so, in other words, what is your carpe diem prescription for CEOs today? And what one thing would you leave them with?
Yeah, I would say it was quite popular 10 years ago during the first big technology boom that CEOs would be asked a question, are you being out Amazoned?
Okay.
And I would leave with the same question today. Are you going to be out Amazoned by your competitor?
Mm-hmm.
And as we say in our article that you and I wrote, Shirish, Amazon now has a patent on a new technology called anticipatory shipment.
Right.
Which
Right.
predicts customer behavior.
Yes.
And is able to actually package and get ready for shipment something you may think you're going to order in the future, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, you can play that out to saying they deliver it to you the same day in a drone.
Mm-hmm.
But these are all likely scenarios that can happen to many industries over the next 5 years. And so really, I think the question that CEOs have to ponder today with the advent of big data is, would they be out Amazon again?
Fantastic. So, Amar, where can people get a hold of this report? Can you tell us a little bit about where that is? And we'll put this up on the screen here for people to see.
Absolutely, Shirish. Again, you and I have written this very interesting article on Sandhill. I think that's an article we recommend all of you read.
That's
first.
the conversation.
It's a business conversation between the chairman and the CEO of a company. I think that really would give you a perspective on what happens in boardrooms and executive suites and so forth. Following that, we also have our report on the site, and feel free to take a look at the sample pages, read up on it, and you can acquire that on our site as well. So we recommend that you go to sandhill.com, and all the information is there for you to read.
All right. Amar, thank you for your time. This was great.
Hey, thanks for having me, Shirish.
Okay. Bye.